heard anything from the bigger schools and all that. I'm coming on here now.
Sure.
In Jackson, Mississippi, people wake up to Jake Wimberly on the Zone, covering all of the SEC. He has, like I said, I've been a guest on his show. He's been a guest on mine many times. It might be breaking down the ETSU Mississippi State game last season, I should say, the 2016-2017 season. Or right now it might be asking the question, Ole Miss has been linked to a place where Steve Forbes, the ETSU head men's basketball coach, could possibly become the next coach of. They pay about $2.2 million, which is significantly more a year, which is significantly more than the $650,000 that Forbes is going to make at ETSU. So let me ask you this, Wimberly. Nobody's been hired yet, but Jake, who do you think will be the next head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels men's basketball team?
Well, if I had to say, and, of course, we're going on reports we're getting on Oxford and, of course, the Jackson Clarion Ledger and then some other people we're talking to. Right now, it looks like they're zeroing in on Kermit Davis over at ETSU. But, again, these things are so fluid. We heard Dan Mata, but he's talking with Georgia. Probably won't know a whole lot on this until some of these coaches, exit their tournaments and move forward. Of course, Mata not in a tournament. But it looks like Davis right now, oddly former Mississippi State guy, could be the next head basketball coach at Ole Miss.
Well, now Kermit Davis at Middle Tennessee State, and I believe they still call it Middle Tennessee State. I've seen Middle Tennessee a lot, but the Blue Raiders here, I know I should know that. But anyway, 3 years older than Steve Forbes, and I've often wondered about the 53-year-old. Forbes will be 53 next month, if that'll shy some teams away from him. But I want to ask, why was it Davis? You mentioned, his ties in the state, albeit with the arch rival. Why Davis would be the guy that Ole Miss would track down on and not, say, a Forbes or another coach?
Well, that's a great question. Something that we'll look to Ross Dorn to answer. But, you look at kind of what they're wanting. They want an established head coach. They want someone that, that can recruit, and not only recruit, when you're at a school like Ole Miss or Mississippi State or even Southern Miss, for that matter, in the state of Mississippi, we're not in basketball country. It's not the Midwest. It's the football country. So you got to get creative. You got to be able to recruit junior college guys. You got to be able to, land a transfers here and there. And look, Ole Miss just opened the new pavilion a couple of years ago. They got a nice arena. Andy Kennedy did a lot of good things at Ole Miss. Won a ton of games. Most successful basketball coach there, probably in the history of the program. So they've got a lot to offer. I think it's just finding the right fit. We always talk about fit in all sports, be it a football program or baseball program or basketball the same way. It's finding the right guy that can recruit to the type of school that you're at. Look, Ole Miss is a football-first school like every other Southeast Conference school outside of Kentucky. Basketball not at the top of the list as far as what fans want to see, but it is very important to that school, and I think that's why you can work for somebody like potentially like Davis.
Well, Jake Wimberly joins us. He hosts the morning show on The Zone down in Jackson, Mississippi. Knows all about Mississippi State and Ole Miss, and talking about Kermit Davis here on Tri-City Sports now being the front runner for the Ole Miss job. How serious do you think Steve Forbes was ever considered, or is he still being considered by Ole Miss? You talk about some of the qualities that, an Ole Miss would look for, established coach. Well, 3 years right now at ETSU, won over 75 games. Also, someone who knows how to recruit the JUCOs. And traditionally, let's face it, modern day SEC, it seems as if certainly Mississippi State, but also Ole Miss, the way that they win a lot is recruiting a lot of junior college athletes. So is Forbes still, or was he ever, a strong candidate at Ole Miss?
I think you would have to, assume that he is and still, or was and still is. You don't take anybody off the table, and you know this, Marky, and these coaches in search of any sport, especially basketball and football, because just when, we've got fans out there of all, demos that they try flights and they talk on message boards, and just when we think it's one coach, it ends up being another coach. So I wouldn't take anybody off the table until, the ink is dry and there's a press conference. I'd keep them all on the table.
That's an interesting story. But although I would think that a mid-major coach, especially what's happened with Kermit Davis, where I think a lot of people went into Sunday saying, you know what, maybe the Blue Raiders lost in their conference tournament, but they should make the NCAA tournament with an at-large berth. And as it turned out, even a Conference USA couldn't get multiple teams into the NCAA tournament. That makes even a position like Ole Miss, traditionally a basketball loser, very desirable for a mid-major coach, especially with the money that they'll pay. Hey, question though, is it possible? How far can Ole Miss really go in basketball? They're not going to be Kentucky. They've made the Sweet 16, but can you do more at Ole Miss than just occasional flashes?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you look at Ole Miss, I mean, they've won 20 games. They've won 20 games several years, several seasons under Andy Kennedy. I mean, I think it's realistic expectations to say that, hey, you know, we could be an NCAA team, you know, one every 3 years or even two out every 3 years. Now, you know, can they be Kentucky or can they be, you know, an Elite Eight type team year in and year out? Probably not. But, I mean, there's not a lot of programs that can say that. I mean, I think for Ole Miss, the expectations in basketball ought to be, you know, a high-end competitor in the Southeastern Conference, a team that can play in the upper half of the league, a team that can at least be in the conversation of the NCAA tournament annually. And, of course, you know, to put a competitive team on the floor to fill that pavilion up and to give them a good program, I mean, I don't think those expectations are unrealistic at all.
Well, the one question that I would ask is, if Kermit Davis wasn't the front runner, why Ole Miss wouldn't have hired a coach by now? I mean, it seems like they're waiting for the NIT run of MTSU to fade out before making an offer, what the timeline is at the current time. Last question, I've got a minute, but why wasn't Thad Matta? You know, I know that he was in Oxford. Why did he seem to not have the interest in the Rebels after he visited Oxford?
That's a great question. I don't really have an answer to. I mean, you never know what these coaches are looking for. It could have been a money deal that they couldn't come to agreement on. And it could have been, you know, a multitude of things. It could have been about an offer from Matta on the other side of the block. Not sure really what he's looking for. But, you know, as far as a place to coach, I mean, and a place to be, I mean, Oxford's a great place. Ole Miss, you know, ties to the Southeastern Conference. You know, a lot of coaches, I'm sure, are interested in that job. It's just finding the right fit.
We're getting, you know, you mentioned Oxford is a great job. The SEC, every location is a great. Who wouldn't want to be here? It's the South. We have magnolia trees in Oxford and all that. You hear that about every city here, and they. Why? Oh, I had a guy say, you know, I was trying to discuss where South Carolina and Tennessee was on the football hierarchy of the SEC, and it was, well, Tennessee will always have a better future. Who wouldn't want to come to Knoxville? Hey, Caleb Calhoun knows all about that. He's next.